Descendants of Alfonso, the Europeans, the government enforced the Dune Diverses, the Homestead Act, forced by the government, right? You hold the Nagas captive, right? You hold the indigenous people captive, right? Slave, right? Then you separate and divide, slice up our land, and you make a homestead act and give it away, right? Slavery ending, right? Wink, wink, slavery ending, yeah, right. How slavery ended when they took your land, and now you walking around exiled on your own land, my naga. You walking around in exile on your own land, talking about going to Africa. I hope we get an understanding of what really happened to us and our people. Cause like all this foolishness, all this running around like zombies and claiming stuff that ain't even yours. You ain't have 19. You talking about go back to Africa. You talking about Pan Africanism. F that. You ain't have $326 billion of lost land value in Africa. You ain't lose 19 million of acres in Africa. The Africans got all their land. A lot of people can't read between the lines, I guess. Cause right here in 1493, right after they come here, Alexander the sixth, he issued a whole nother bull, the Intercaterra, stating one Christian nation did not have the right to establish dominion over lands previously dominated by another Christian nation. Now they fighting over our lands. The Spanish, the French, the British, thus establishing the law of nations, the United Nations, right? Together, the Dune Diverses, the Romanus Pontifex, the Roman Catholic punks. Yeah, salute the MLK. He was telling you. MLK was telling you, in not so many words. Maybe he was being used as a vessel. Maybe he didn't understand what he was saying. Maybe he did. I don't know. Lost all your land. You mean tell me? Oh, you supposed from 1865 you supposed to got free to 1866. You supposed to have 19 million acres of land by then, and then they go to divvying it up 1 year later in the Homestead Act. Man, these people can't make a lot make sense if they tried, man. They can't make a lot make sense if they tried. Homestead Act. They should. Oh, it's all about you. It's all about you, Nagas. All about you, Nagas. But what's so funny about all of this? What's honestly truthfully funny about this is nobody talks about the land owned by so-called blacks that was never slaves. Black property owners in the South, 1790 to 1915. 1790. We're talking about 75 years before slavery so-called ended. We're talking about what 298 years after 1492. We know we owned the land before that, though, right? But they black property owners in the South, 1790. I thought slavery in the 1865. Wait a minute, hold up, something ain't adding up, right? Gotta blow up this one. They got the fine print on this one. Let's blow up the text some. In lieu of an abstract, here's a brief excerpt of the contents. Civil War history. The complex, y'all know it's get kind of tricky, huh? And even tragic connections, making connections between the code of conduct and human behavior. Clinton's essay, however, along with Brenda Stevenson's discussions of Virginia slave families and Jacqueline Jones' economic analysis of sharecropper families, yeah, how a lot of Nagas lost they land, sharecropping. Yeah, white, he's have a seed and he stay a week. He's squatting on your land. Now the government give it to him. You done taught him how to farm your land. You done taught him to farm your cotton. Where the pit was at, I ain't gonna even go back to it. You done taught them to farm your cotton. Government gave them your land. It made you think you was a slave. They slaved y'all, right? Sharecropper's family exemplified growing interest in so-called African American and indigenous American women of the 19th century South. Unlike much of the scholarship of the past decade that has exaggerated the strength of the slave family, Stevenson rightly argues that the interference of white masters in the rearing of black children, the devastating impact of miscegenation, and the ever-present threat of breakup through sale left the slave family a viable but battered institution. Jones, too, steers a middle course between those historians and economists who would interpret sharecropping either as a logical free market response or as an effort to restore slavery in everything but name. Employment, steal your land. Then talking about this employment now. You just a slave without land. For her economic coercion and frequent shifting the black sharecropping families made for a life of both resourcefulness and fatalism. In any collection of essays by such talented historians, there is bound to be some stimulating iconicalism, rejecting the long-held view that black masters in the Old South, for the most part, merely owned members of their own families. Michael Johnson and James Board contend that a significant number of these men owned slaves out of self-interest, hoping to further separate themselves from the slave population and securing additional protection for their family's freedom. Eugene Genovese, wow, makes a second appearance, this time in a spirited after-dinner speech to chide historians for ignoring women as participants in the political culture of the Old South. Although, like many other historians, he exaggerates the sectional extremism of these women. He nevertheless makes a persuasive case for taking them seriously. And finally, there is plain old novelty. Bertrand Brown's wide-ranging discussion of mental depression and literacy, the literary talent among the female Perseus in the 19th century combines the usual flair and subtlety with a few unfortunate detours into pretentious psychological speculation and trendy literary theory. Alan Grubb rescues old Southern cookbooks from the collectors and antiquarians. His use of cookbooks as social documents is both creative and stimulating, though one suspects unlikely to provide many insights unavailable in other sources. All in all, this essay and the others in this excellent book provide a wonderfully satisfying intellectual feast. George C. Rauble, Anderson University, Black Property Owners in the South, 1790 to 1915, by Lawrence Swiniger, and Chicago University of Illinois Press. This groundbreaking study significantly enhances our knowledge of black property owners in the 19th century, utilizing federal census rebook reviews, terms, local tax records, newspapers, and memoirs. Swiniger vividly portrays a people determined to earn an economic stake in the United States when so-called Africans, no, indigenous Americans, in North America, the author claims private property ownership was alien to their heritage. Yeah, because the Indians didn't believe we owned the land. The land owned us, you big dummy. They eventually concluded that survival depended not upon communal harmony, but upon individual ingenuity, including owning property, which in turn brought some confidence and self-esteem. Swiniger traces property ownership from 1860 to 1915 among slaves, free blacks, affluent free blacks, and lower and upper South blacks. Even the casual reader knows that a few free blacks owned substantial amounts of land and slaves. Not to 1816, it's to 1790. Remember the title now. More surprising is the degree of property holding among slaves. Many plantation hands managed to acquire small amounts of both money and property, which gave a sense of self-worth. A few by conniving their owners, see, why they accumulated sizable estates in 1860. Okay, the slave poser connived his. Listen to what they're saying. They trying to make excuses for knockers having land, cause they know it don't add up with the history. They tricked them. A few of them connived their masters out some land.
You big dummy.
I'm supposed to slow down, everybody. Did they really just try to tell us a few slaves tricked their masters and accumulated sizable? He accumulated acres of land. You know, he that boy black that broke loose. Boy, that boy he first thing he did married an Indian. Then he
You big
accumulated
dummy.
acres of land from his 19 million acres of land from his master. I swear some of these people that you would think so smart is just so stupid. In 1860, Anthony Weston, a rice mill builder, held $40,000 of real estate. 5 years before slavery ended, huh? He probably had it longer than that. You probably just had started counting in 1860 on real estate in his free wife's name. I mean, how long it? Wait a minute. He a slave, but he married a free. He got a free wife. They got 40,000 acres of land. See, this is lies, man. That he's not a slave. The man was a freeman. He was free, an indigenous person. Anthony Weston talking about a rice mill builder. He building rice mill. This nigga indigenous to America, and he got 40,000. This nigga got $40,000 of real estate, and him and his wife got $40,000 of real estate in 1860. 5 years before so-called slavery. Wait a minute. How long did it take him to get 40,000? That's what we need to ask. How long did it take them to we forget the 5 years before slavery ended? How long did it take them to get $40,000 worth of real estate? Did it get handed down from their ancestors? We got questions. Nobody's answering all my questions. Abram Stewart leased 500 acres from his master. Hold on. He got the money to lease 500 acres from his master? I'm supposed to believe this dumbness? This is man land. His master wasn't his master, he the master. The white man was a sharecropper. These historical lies y'all trying to edit history. He owned more than 300. He got 300 cows, 300 head of cattle, and 500 acres of land for his cattle. He got 2 acres of land for each cow he got. Motherfucking lies, man. I'm not stupid, man. You want to disrespect our ancestors and call them a slave? Yeah, you did enslave our ancestors. You're trying to trick us out of our land, though. We know it. We know who you really enslaved. We know who really owned the land. No African never owned no land here. They say he owned 300 heads of cattle. He was selling beef. He was selling steaks. This nigga had steaks. He had oxtails. This nigga had everything. And he was butchering it. He knew exactly how to cut it. He was like, yup, you cut it right there. That's how you get the steak. And was one of the most successful butchers in Savannah, Georgia. Right up the street from me. He 2 hours down the road from Blackjack. I need to find out where his people at. Before the Civil War, Prosperous Black was most likely a rural landholder. Before the Civil War, before 1860, 1861, a prosperous black usually owned a lot of land in the lower South. Wait a minute, I thought you said blacks was escaping the South from slavery. Wait a minute, this ain't adding up. By 1990, the wealthy black more commonly was an urban dweller in the upper South, while free blacks in the northern states. You mean to tell me it was free blacks down south, free blacks in the upper South, free blacks up north? Wait a minute, free knockers all over the place? A lot of them got land? What happened to all the land? While free blacks in northern states benefited from the stimulated war economy and decreased competition from whites, southern black landholders were seriously damaged by the war for several years after the war. Seriously damaged by the war, my nigga. Doomed diverses. Martin Luther King told us they took your land. They made a whole homestead act to take your granddad and your grandmama land and then enslave you on top of it. And then tell you were African. You got niggas running around with dashikis on talking about Pan-Africanism, listening to Marcus Garvey speeches talking about going to Africa and don't even know real history. Don't never talk about history. They don't never talk about history. All they do is a bunch of dashiki hype speeches. I don't need to hear no dashiki hype speeches and talking about what the white man got to do and what the black man got to do. No, let's talk about real history and what really happened. We ain't no cowards. We ain't packing our bags and our tail in our ass like a scared dog and getting out of town.
Boom shakalaka!
If you a Pan-African coward, be my guest. Go back where you never came from.
You big dummy.
And we ain't coming with you. Drive up. Hey man, I'm Blackjack, man. This House of Cons, man. Y'all support the house. And we got the cash up at the top of the screen, cash.app/$ House of Con. All support matter. We need your support. We want to continue the message. If you want to keep the message coming, support the house, my nigga. I'm Blackjack. We out. Peace.